Howdy, I'm Scott Paulsen, founder of Paulsen Coaching and the Sales Sherpa Program to guide your sales to new heights. Well, maybe not your sales, but our client sales. Because if you're watching this video, it's because you are considering joining the team as the independent contractor on the Paulsen Coaching prospecting team, the Sales Sherpa prospecting team. So what exactly is the Sales Sherpa Program for small and mid-sized businesses? Well, it helps small and mid-sized businesses increase their sales by 50% or more in a 60 to 90 day window using their existing sales teams. And we do this by using our proprietary 3-stage program. In this program, the first stage is process optimization. Now, I like to say that we can't tell people how to improve what they're doing until we know what they're doing. So in this stage, we are capturing a company's existing sales processes. And our whole goal here is to identify these inefficiencies, or what I like to call dead ends. These are the places in the process where a salesperson just doesn't know what to do next with a prospective buyer. And so they get caught in kind of a loop of, well, I'll just circle back around with you, or I'll follow up with you later. Well, that's really destructive to sales, because it actually turns out that about 70% of lost sales are lost because of this. So we're going to sit with those salespeople, find out exactly what the step-by-step is on their process, how they're getting leads and all that other good stuff, and identify that. Now, one thing about the process, sales process is not standalone. It is part of an overall selling framework. And this selling framework that I'm about to share with you here is how we view, it's the lens through which we view a sales department. And it all begins with the buyer's journey, or marketing. Now, we really don't want to get into the business of consulting companies on their marketing. There's plenty of people who do that, plenty of digital marketing agencies that do that. What we are wanting to do here is make sure that the sales process and the marketing mesh as closely together as possible. We don't want there to be any gaps. We want them to be aligned, because if there's gaps between sales and marketing, leads get lost and money's wasted. Now, in this framework here, this is the AIDA model, and we just kind of follow this because it's been around forever. It's been around for about 150 years. It's very flexible. There's dozens of variations on it, and a lot of people are already familiar with it. And regardless of what sales gurus on the internet may say, this is not how sales happen. This is how marketing happens. And quickly, it all starts with the attention, getting the attention of that buyer, whether it's attention on a product or a service, or getting their attention focused on a problem that they may be suffering from, or an opportunity that exists out in the marketplace. Regardless of whatever it is, we want to get that attention and then pique their interest. That's the I. And get their interest, keep that interest, and build that interest so that they have the D, the desire to take the last A, which is an action. And now in this framework that we work with our customers on, that last action always brings that buyer into contact with the salesperson. So we're not doing this for e-commerce companies. We're not doing this for, the Amazon sellers, the eBay sellers, Etsy sellers, or Shopify sellers. This is for companies who have salespeople that actually work with their buyers. And now when they do come into contact with their buyers, this is where we really want to get into the nitty-gritty details. I want to know where those salespeople are getting their leads. Do they have a marketing department that's generating leads for them, or are they self-generating their leads? If they're self-generating their leads, how are they doing it? Are they telemarketing? Are they email marketing? Are they carrier pigeon marketing? What exactly are they doing? And then what are they doing step by step to qualify those buyers? Then what does their sales presentation look like? What are the details? And then how are they handling resistance and closing customers and retaining customers? Now, the last, or the third part, I should say, to this process is the CRM. This is the pipeline tool, okay? And regardless of what other sales gurus on the internet say, this is not how sales are done either. The sales pipeline is a tool to help us quantify the number of prospective buyers that a company has, the sales department has, and to manage how well they're flowing through that process. And so we want to make sure that the process and the tool are pretty good reflections of each other. And it's still kind of shocking to me when I come across small and mid-sized businesses that don't have a CRM. They're so inexpensive these days, and so that's not the reason that they don't have a CRM. It's usually because they don't know how to deploy it, how to set it up to really help them. Now, we'll do a little bit of work in these areas on deployment, but we're not going to get into the customization of CRMs. That's not our business. There are plenty of consultants out there who do customize it. We don't want to be handcuffed to every change and every piece of technology so that we can take this piece of business to customers out there. That's just not what we want to do. The last part of the framework is the selling methodology. This is the individual skills that salespeople use both strategically and tactically to get that buyer through the process of becoming a paying customer. So we want to make sure that all the pieces of this framework are working well together like a well-oiled machine, because if they're not, there's inefficiencies in there. Now, here's an example of a sales process that we actually mapped for a customer of ours. This was a few years ago, and this was on site at a company here in Houston. They were doing about $8-9 million worth of business every year, and they had 3 salespeople. And so we wanted to see exactly what they were doing. And we went into a room with them. This was before the shutdown, and we rolled out this paper board on a wall. It's 40 inches tall, 100 inches long. And we started asking them, okay, where are you getting your leads? Now, they had a marketing department that was feeding them leads. They say, okay, when you get that lead, what are you doing next? And that was our number one question. What do you do next? Well, what do you do next? Well, what do you do next? And each one of these blue boxes here represents an action, and each one of these white diamonds represents a decision. So when we got through the entire process, all the way over here to the far right side where that E is, where that's the end of the process, it's either closed won or closed lost. We discovered that they had something like 24, 25 actions and 10 or 11 decision points in there. And then this thing way down here at the bottom that says a big cloud that nobody really knew what happened because the deal had to go over to Joe in finance for approval. Well, we want to take this kind of spaghetti mess and we want to simplify it. We want to boil it down to something like this. And this is overly simplified. Nothing ever gets this simple, but it gives you a good stark contrast of what we're shooting for. So in this case, you have marketing qualified lead pops up, salesperson follows up on it. So the salesperson asks that potential buyer, says, hey, would you like to schedule a demo? If they say nope, then okay, kick them back over to marketing in the lead nurturing process. If they say, yeah, I would like that, then fantastic. Do the demo. At the end of the demo, they're asking, hey, do you like what we're selling? Do you want to buy it? If they say no, then okay, kick them back over to marketing. They're back in that lead nurturing process. If they say, yep, okay, great. We send them the contract, collect the cash. We got ourselves a brand new customer. All right. Now, when we did boil this one down, it did get us simplified from about 24, 25 actions down to about 12 or 13. And those 10 or 11 decision points got down to about 6. And they had an average sales cycle of about 62 days. And it wasn't a big B2B sale. It was probably around I think the average sale size was somewhere around $8,000 or $9,000. So it wasn't huge, okay? But after we simplified it, that average sales cycle went from 62 days all the way down to 15 days. Now, here's what that really enabled them to do. It really enabled them to scale marketing to where now they knew that they could start generating more leads for their salespeople because they could handle more. All right, so that's what we're doing in stage 1 of the program. That usually happens in the first week. The second stage of the program is what I like to call the training phase. That's where we're training them on the new practices, the new process, and the sales methodology to make it work. Now, whenever a company introduces a new way of doing things, a new process at any point in the organization, they have to train the people on how to do it, how to use the new process. Same is true in sales. So we're going to train those salespeople on that new sales process, the new streamlined sales process, but we're also going to train them on the skill set to make it very effective. And here our goal is to master the art of the low pressure or the no pressure close. Now, The methodology that we use by this is nothing new. We certainly didn't invent this. It's been around for decades, and it goes all the way back to a company called Xerox back in the 1960s. Okay. Now, if you're under 30, maybe you've heard of a Xerox, but if you're over 30 or maybe closer to my age, I'm in my 50s, we've definitely heard of Xerox. Well, Xerox used to have an army of salespeople going business to business to business selling copiers. And in the 1960s, they conducted some research. They invested about $10 million into a research program, which would be about $120 million now. And all they were doing was just researching the psychology of buying. They wanted to learn what would make buyers buy. And they discovered some very interesting things. First, is that all buying follows a stable and predictable process. It's hardwired into the human psychology. It's hardwired in our brains. The way that we buy is the same way that our great great grandparents bought, and it's the same way that our great great grandchildren will buy. Now, the modalities are different, of course. Back in the day, they had catalogs, they had the general store. Now we've got, online shopping. Who knows what they'll come in the decades to come. However, buying is hardwired into our psychology, and it all starts with the identification of a need. And this is the first stage. That this should look a little familiar to that sales assessment that you took. Some of the terminology should start sounding familiar to you. So human behavior is based on the arousal of a need. It's called the arousal theory of motivation, that all human behavior is initiated by the arousal of a need, and that includes buying. We never take an action unless it satisfies some need, either physiologically or psychologically or both. And that includes buying, okay? Now, however, think about it. Very few people, if you were in the market for a copier, if you were a Xerox copier salesperson, they ran across very few people who ever just said, yeah, I've got the need for a copier. Do you happen to have any? But so they got very adept at knowing the top business needs, whether that be like increasing revenue or decreasing costs, and how their copiers could help their business owners satisfy or accomplish those needs. Now, just because they uncovered a need didn't mean that they just started launching into, well, I can help you fix that. I can solve that problem for you. They didn't do that because they realized this as part of their research, that at any given moment, you and me and every other person on the face of this planet, we have dozens of needs going on, in our lives. Think about it. I've got physiological needs. I've got to eat. I've got to drink. I've got to sleep. I've got to breathe. Okay. That business owner, they've got all sorts of business needs going on as well. They got to make sure that their customers are happy, make sure the employees are doing the work, get payroll, take care of all the operations, all sorts of stuff. Not to mention personal needs. I got to make sure I get the dry cleaning, pick up the groceries, pet the dog, hug the wife, make sure the kids' tuition is paid. Which one do I ever take action on? Well, it's the one that gets energized into a priority. And the way that they used to energize these priorities is when they discovered that need, they'd start probing at it like a sore tooth. Okay. And they would ask questions for impact and consequence. If the need was to reduce costs, they'd start asking that business owner, okay, well, how are you trying to reduce costs? What happens if you don't reduce costs? What's that going to do to your profitability? And if your profitability goes down, what's that going to do to your employees? Are they going to have to take pay cuts? You're going to lay people off? And if you lay people off, what's that going to do to your standing in the community? What if you have to take a pay cut? What's that going to do to your personal financial? What's that going to do to your goals and your dreams? They were deliberately agitating their buyers at this stage of the process because they knew that buyer was not yet ready to hear ideas. And so they would get that buyer so agitated to where they got to the point where they would just say, okay, copier salesman, how can you possibly help me? I know I'm being a little dramatic, but at that point, they knew that they were ready to hear ideas and have some solutions presented to them. There are so many untrained or maybe slightly trained salespeople out there. They know just enough that, hey, I've got to identify some needs, right? But they're not trained or disciplined enough that when they do identify a need, that they just jump right in and say, hey, I can fix that. Guess what? And that buyer might be like, you know what, that's like number 20 on my list. Why don't you follow back up with me in a month or in a year when I've got all these other things taken care of? And so the very trained and very disciplined copier salespeople, they would take this long way around, and they, again, deliberately agitating their buyers or building, deliberately putting stress into the equation right here, or what we call tension for change, TFC. Okay. And then that did set them up and made that buyer ready to hear some ideas. But now when the copier salesman started presenting those ideas, they did it a very specific way. They didn't just start telling, well, here's the 20 different ways that we can help you reduce costs with our copiers. They did what was called lock and key presentation, where they focused only on those benefits and outcomes and end results that were relevant to the buyer. And when they did that, the buyer felt like, oh my gosh, this person's been listening to all of my problems and my challenges, and they know exactly what I need. And then the next stage where closing happens, or what we call implementation, became a low stress or no stress occurrence because that buyer was basically selling themselves. Now, they got so good at this that by the mid 1970s, they had captured something like 90% of the marketplace for copiers in the United States. And Congress said, you guys have got to be doing something illegal. We're going to investigate you. And so they opened up a Federal Trade Commission investigation into them. And at the result of the investigation, they said, man, you guys, you're selling your copiers for like the highest price in the market. You're the most expensive ones out there. And you've got all these foreign competitors coming in, like from Japan, the Icons and the Ricos, who are much, much cheaper. How is it that you have a monopoly on this market? As if we just got the best salespeople. And so they dropped all the charges. Everything went along. And the point of the story is that they weren't necessarily doing this because they just wanted to shove copiers down everybody's throats. Sure, they wanted to sell copiers, but they also realized the last stage and the most important stage, because 70% of happy, satisfied customers are willing to leave their vendor if there's no relationship. And they wanted to keep on selling them those copier supplies, the carbon black, the toner, and eventually in 3 to 5 years, have them upgrade to the latest, greatest copier. So they knew they had to keep that relationship there. And because it's a lot easier to keep a customer, and it's a lot less expensive to keep a customer than to go out and get new ones. All right, so that's what we're teaching our customers to do, our clients, salespeople to do in stage 2, and that's usually in week 2. The third phase is what I like to call coaching for success. You may have heard the saying that it takes 21 days to build a new habit. Stephen Covey made that popular in his book, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Well, we're going to coach these salespeople because sales training is notorious for being just over-glorified, rah-rah, pep rally kind of excitement building sessions that just get salespeople all jazzed up and excited. So they'll go out, do a whole bunch of activity, and activity goes up for about 90 days. Results go up for about 90 days. But then after that 90 days, the results start coming back down. And it's for a couple of the reasons that we address here. It's because, number one, those salespeople are going back to the same broken process, the same dead ends where 70% of their lost deals are lost. They're still there. Maybe they haven't been figured out. That's number one. Number two, they're not getting the coaching support. So when they run into those obstacles again and they're not being coached, it's very easy for them to say, oh, okay, they kind of revert back to their old behaviors. So we're introducing all these new practices, this new process. We've taken out the dead ends. We've streamlined process. And we've taught them all these new skills, all these new practices that we want them to keep on using. And so we want that to become a habit, because that's our goal right here, is to habituate the practice. And when that happens, their results go up and they stay up, because it's not just a flash in the pan or some kind of fad. It is a new habit, a new way of doing things. All right, that's an overview of the program. Now, here's what it does for our clients. And this is what I like to call a tale of two metrics. There we go. I'm going to give you a hypothetical company here. And let's just say that this company has $1 million in sales. and a profit margin right at 20%, and that means its net profit is right at $200,000. Now, they have average salespeople, AVG meaning average. And there's a study done by, I think it's Gartner Group every few years. They're studying a couple 100,000 salespeople around the world, and they put them into two categories, high performers and average. Now, high performing salespeople, there's only one criteria to make that, and that is make quota all the time, 100% of the time. Only about 26, 27% of salespeople meet that criteria. Now, the rest are put into the average category. Now, average salespeople make their quota about 52% of the time. So 1 month they're above it, next month they're below it. 1 quarter they're up, next they're down. They're up, they're down, okay? And their win rate is 40%. And that means they're closing 4 out of 10 deals. Now, as a result of the program, here's the first improvement that we see. They start performing like high performers, and high performers have a win rate of 60%. So instead of just closing 4 out of 10 deals, now we're going to close 6 out of 10 deals. Nothing monumental. They don't have to start tripling their volume or anything like that. They've just got to close a few more. Okay. Now that doesn't seem like a huge improvement, but it has a big effect on the net sales number. So when that win rate goes from 40% to 60%, if everything else stays the same number of leads coming in, same average deal size, then that $1 million in sales will turn into 1.5 million in sales. Okay. 1.5 million at a 20% profit margin would mean a $300,000 profit. But then there's this second metric that I love talking about. This is margin capture, and that's at 56% for average salespeople. Now, margin capture means the percentage of deals that are being sold at full price. And for average salespeople, they're selling 56% of their deals at full price, or you can look at it like this. They're discounting the other 44% of their deals. So they're discounting 44% of their deals, closing 40% of them. Something's not right here, okay? They're basically selling on price. Whenever they run into resistance, they drop the price, they discount. Now, high performers, on the other hand, they have a margin capture right at 75%. So they're only discounting 25% of the time. When that happens, profit margin goes from that 20% number, it goes up a little bit, it goes up to 25%. So instead of the net profit being $300,000, now it's $375,000, or it's an 88% increase in profit on a 50% increase in sales. Now that's fantastic. Those are results that I love to talk about. All right, that's what it generates. Let me tell you how we do it, or more precisely, how we don't do it. Number one, we don't go in and fire people. We're not the consulting firm that says, all right, fire your worst performer. Let's hire somebody new. That takes way too long. It takes me 30 to 60 days to recruit and hire that replacement. And it could take me 120 days or more for them to ramp up. So we wouldn't know the result for maybe a year, 9 months to a year. It takes way too long. We're also not going to go in and do a whole bunch of new hiring. We're not the consulting firm that says, okay, let's if you want to double your sales, double the number of salespeople you have. Again, it takes way too long. Going to take up to about a year before you see any result. But consider that it costs, on average, $65,000 to $70,000 initial investment into that salesperson. If you're going to do that, you better have some pretty deep pockets. Costs too much, takes way too long. Okay. Also, we're not going to be the consulting firm that says, all right, just upgrade your tech stack, get the latest, greatest CRM, go get a sales enablement platform, get a content management system. Let's get that. Okay. That adds to costs. That'll take away from profitability, and it does not really have the promise of increasing sales substantially. And then lastly, we're not like the digital marketing companies out there, those consultants who seem to say, well, if you want to double your sales and double your leads, and if you want to double your leads, double the amount that you're spending on marketing. Okay. We've been in this business for about 30 years. I know how to find what's broken quickly and fix it quickly. And that's precisely what we're doing. Okay. Now, for this program, we charge our customers anywhere from $5,000 on the low end to $10,000 on the high end. This hypothetical program, we would charge this customer probably $10,000, okay? So put yourself in the shoes of that business owner where I'm telling them for this program, it's a $10,000 fee, but we believe that, we can increase your profits by $175,000. What do you think their response to that is? I've gotten a lot of different, a wide variety of responses, but the number one response I always get is, how do you do that? With a healthy dose of skepticism, right? Which is great, because once they ask me that, I know they're hooked. I know we got them, okay? Because I will tell them exactly how we do it. See, I have no problem telling them how we're going to do this for them, because we're kind of like custom home builders in that respect. If I were building a home for them and they wanted all the blueprints and the instructions on how to build that house, I'd give it to them. Here you go. I know you got a business to run. I know you got a job to do. I know you got life going on. And you can start building that house on your own, and you might be moving into it in a couple of years, or you can let me charge you the 10 grand and I'll have you moving into it in 60 to 90 days. Okay. That's how confident I am in what we're doing. So I've got a question for you then, if you're watching this video. If this seems like the kind of program that you would feel comfortable representing on cold calls to anonymous business owners, and more importantly, putting your energy and your time into, then we need to go on to that next step. But you got to answer that question first. If the answer is like, nah, Scott, that's not for me. Okay, stop the video now. I appreciate your time and your consideration, and I wish you the best of luck in whatever you do. But if that is you, say, yeah, I could get behind that. I'll put my time and my energy into that. I feel comfortable with that. Then great. I've got the next big question for you then. And I want you to think about this seriously, is how much money do you need to make to live the kind of life that you want to live? I want you to think about that. I'm going to draw an example here. For some reason, it always seems to be somewhere around $10,000 a month. You may be less than this, or you may be more than this. So let's just say if it's $10,000 a month, that's $120,000 a year. If you're like, Scott, I need like twice that amount. Fine, double the numbers as we go through this. Okay. So let's just say for this example, it's $10,000 a month. Now, our deals, again, they range from $5,000 on the low end to $25,000 on the high end. Our average deal size right now is right around the $7,500 mark, $7,500. And your quiz for this video right now is to remember what that commission rate that you were told on the phone call. Okay? I'm going to give you a second. Okay, you should have it by now. If you don't, it was 33%. And that's for the appointment setting role. Okay? We're not going to put you into under the responsibility of having to make presentations and close deals, not right away. Okay, you can move into that as soon as you want to, and we'll pay you more for it. But just for setting the appointments, for scheduling people into complimentary diagnostic calls, we will pay you 33% commission. So that means that the average commission is running at about, or you can expect an average commission somewhere around $2,500 per deal. Some will be less, some will be more, but on average, it should balance out somewhere around that $2,500 mark. Okay, so if you need to make $10,000 a month, and the average commission is around $2,500 per deal, that means that we need to close for you 4 deals a month. Okay? 4 deals per month. Now, what does it take to close 4 deals? If we got to close 4 deals for you, what do you got to do for us? I like to say that we eat our own dog food. We practice what we preach. If we are a company that teaches organizations how to be high-performing sales organizations, we better be a high-performing sales organization ourselves. So if you remember back, the win rate for high performing salespeople was 60%. We're about that as well, okay? We're about 2 out of 3, okay? However, for this estimate, I'm going to estimate us low. I'm going to say we're closer to average. We're a little bit above average, but not quite high performers. Let's just say our win rate is only 50%. Now, that means to close 4 deals for you in a month, we would need 8 leads. That's 8 leads a month. Now, a lead is anybody who sits through a presentation. It's that simple. Okay? Need 8 people like that. So what does it take to get 8 leads? Well, so we have a wide range of skills of people that work for us. Okay, I've got people who have been doing this for years, have been doing telemarketing and cold calling for years. They know what it's like to get their what we call get their face ripped off on a cold call, and then have to get right back on it. They know how to focus in. They know how to dial in, and they know how to disqualify people to find the qualified people. That's a secret. Okay, got to disqualify people quickly to find those who are good candidates. The best that we've seen is that it takes those highly qualified individuals usually can generate on average about 1 lead per hour. All right. Now, I also have people who have no telemarketing experience or cold calling experience, and we have no problem training them and supporting them and coaching them and helping them become successful. But those on the lower end, usually that same lead can take a day, 1 lead per day. And by that, I mean, 8, 9 hours. That doesn't mean that they're sitting down for 8, 9 hours and cranking it out and trying to do it. They may spread that out over a week because this is a real flexible role. Okay. But let's just say you're somewhere in the middle. You might be better than that. You might be a little bit worse than that. But let's just say somewhere in the middle, meaning it's 4 hours per lead. So if you got to get 8 leads a month times 4 hours per lead, that means you need to put in 32 hours a month, which is about 8 a week. Or let's just even say, let's round this up and say 2 a day, 2 hours a day, 2 or 3 hours a day. Okay. Now, if your monthly number is more than 10,000, then that goes up. Let's say your monthly number is 20,000 instead of 10,000. That means this would be 4 deals a day. Okay. Or 4 hours a day. I mean, so if you're $5,000 a month, then this goes down by half. If you're not 10,000 a month, you're $5,000 a month. You don't need to put in 2 hours a day, maybe an hour, but I would still go for 2 hours a day. So, the big question now, if you're this far, is this 2 hours a day. If you're going to, put in 2 hours of your day, of your life into this, is it worth that? Is it worth that? But only you can answer that. Okay. Now, if you said yes, well, then we need to talk next steps. If you said no, you can stop the video. You can, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you sitting through this. I just try to be as accurate as I can, give you the facts as best as I can. And if you're saying, Scott, that's really not worth it for me, I get it. It isn't for everybody. Okay. Good luck in finding what you're looking for. I really wish you the best. But okay. If you're a yes and you said, yeah, Scott, that's worth it, then we need to talk next steps. And we need to get an independent sales contractor agreement into your hands. And there's 3 things about this contractor's agreement. It's only 2 pages. We like to keep things really, really simple here. Easy to join, easy to leave, easy to come back. We're just really, really simple. Okay. But 3 things about that independent contractor's agreement. Number 1, you are an independent contractor. You are not an employee. Okay. You set your own schedule, use your own equipment. It only takes a phone and a computer. Sometimes one and the same. And you work as hard as you want or as little as you want. We do not monitor you. We don't have quotas. We don't have metrics. We don't have KPIs. We're not in the babysitting business. We're in the business to get you to where your goals are and to support you getting there. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is this right here, the 33%. You get 33% in that SDR role, the appointment setters role. Now, if you ever want to move into the role where you are making the presentations and closing your own customers, like I said, you're more than welcome to. That's a different agreement. We'll pay you a little bit more. That's actually a 50% commission. And if you want to get into the role where you're doing everything, you're finding the customers, you're closing the customers, and then you are delivering the program, you are consulting with them, you're training them, you're coaching them. Fantastic. I got people doing that as well. I'll pay you more for that. We give you the programs and all the support so you have an opportunity for growth should you ever want it. Okay. But right now this role is 33%. All right. And then the third most important thing about the independent contractors agreement is you've got to tell us which onboarding program you want. I've got two onboarding programs. One of them is the standard program, totally free. Then we have an accelerated program, which is a one-time charge of $50. That is not $50 a month. It's not $50 a year. It's a one-time setup fee of $50. So let me show you what each one of them entails. In the standard program, we'll give you a sample cold calling script. You can use it, you cannot use it, you can modify it. We strongly encourage you to use it almost word for word the first few days until you get a good feel for how we're trying to prospect, how we're trying to find our leads, okay? We're not trying to sell everybody that they've got to get on this call, that it's a great thing for them. We're looking for those people who are already interested in it, okay? So we are disqualifying 95% of everybody to find the 5 who are qualified, who are interested. That's our approach, okay? We'll also give you the instructions for setting up the complimentary diagnostic call. It's real simple. It's an online calendar. And then lastly, we've got an online onboarding program that has like 12 or 13 tutorials in it. Everything from more product knowledge, how to cold call, how to make your own list, how to write your own script. We've got some sessions that are recorded, some actual cold calling sessions that are recorded in there. How to overcome call reluctance, how to use your LinkedIn profile, how to optimize it and try to find leads on LinkedIn. So we got all sorts of tutorials there that we give you free access to. Okay, that's the standard program. The accelerated program, you get all that same stuff, but we're also going to include your first list of business owners, and that's 1,000 of them. Now, we're pulling this off of a social network. We're pulling this off of LinkedIn. We use Sales Navigator. We pay a couple $100 a month for Sales Navigator, and we're doing searches on there, and we're looking for businesses that meet our demographic profile. Companies like, I'll tell you what they are, okay, under 100 million in revenues, fewer than 50 employees, and they've got to have salespeople, 1 to 10 salespeople. We can only do these kind of searches on LinkedIn, okay? And then once we pull that list, then we're actually doing a second search for people at those companies called owner, founder, or CEO. Now, the information, this is very important, the information that we get off of that, LinkedIn is very protective of their data, and rightfully so. Okay, so we get some limited information. We get the person's name, we get their title, we get a link to their personal page on LinkedIn, we get the name of the company, and we get the link, link to the company page. Okay, sometimes we get emails. We get a few emails, not many, but we don't get phone numbers. That's very important. We don't get phone numbers off of LinkedIn. They really, really guard that. However, you get a HubSpot account with us. And HubSpot has millions of users all over the world. This is a CRM, and it's an online CRM tool if you're not familiar with it. And these millions of users all over the world, they're putting in information about people and companies in that global CRM database, HubSpot's, okay? So when we upload this list into HubSpot for you, if those companies exist, any of those companies who exist in the CRM and HubSpot's database, it's pulling phone numbers and contact information in, okay? We've been averaging about 60%, somewhere in that neighborhood. So, you'll get a good number of companies that in your HubSpot account that will come with the phone numbers. Now, what do you do for the other 40%? This was what we were doing last year before we discovered this little HubSpot trick. We would click on the company's LinkedIn page. We would look, and half the time their phone number, the company phone number, is on the LinkedIn page. Now, the other half of the time, it's not there. The website address is almost always there. So we'd go to the company's website and we would look for their phone number for maybe 1 minute, no more than 2 or 3 minutes, because if I can't find their phone number in 2 or 3 minutes, I got 1,000 other companies to call and I don't want to waste any more time on it. Okay. So that's how we do that through HubSpot. You'll also get a Paulsen Coaching email address. We're going to give you the business identity. And we're also going to give you access to all of our training programs for free. The Sales Sherpa Masterclass, that sales training that we deliver to our customers. We also sell that as a standalone program, usually for about $1,500 per person. You get it for free under the accelerated program. We got a time management course called Sell Smarter with Microsoft Outlook. It's for salespeople, time management for salespeople. We usually sell that for about $350 per person. You get it for free. We want to support you as much as we possibly can. Okay. Any other programs that we add to the library, you'll get for free. So we're going to do a negotiations class sometime this year and possibly a customer service class. You get that stuff for free. Okay. That's the accelerated program. All right. I want to thank you so much for watching this, for checking it out. And your next step is to shoot me an email. If you want that independent contractors agreement, shoot me an email. Give me, the exact name for it, and we'll shoot you the independent contractors agreement. And when you send that to us, that's you saying, "Hey, I'm ready to get rolling," and we'll set you up under whatever program you said. Now, look, if you have any questions, you can email us. Email me directly. Okay. One of our core principles here is transparency. So you can ask me anything you want. I'll give you the facts. You might like them, you might not like them, but I'm going to give you the facts so that you can make a decision that's best for you. So again, thanks a bunch for watching this. I hope I get to work with you soon. I'm looking forward to meeting you and working with you. All right. God bless. Keep on selling.